As we know, when British declared independence to India, all princely states were free to join India or Pakistan or stay independent. Though most of the states joined India, few states didn't accede smoothly. Hyderabad was one of such states. Today, we are going to discuss how Hyderabad became integral part of India. Let us first understand the background of Hyderabad. Since 1724, Hyderabad was under the rule of Nizams. Their dynasty is also known as Asaf Jah, which was the title conferred by Delhi Emperor Muhammad Shah. Nizams managed to rule Hyderabad earlier with the help of French and later with the help of British. Hyderabad was geographically at the heart of India. It had a very pivotal position, and so it was important for India to have this state integrated. Hyderabad constituted major part in Deccan, so it was not possible to think of India without Hyderabad. State was surrounded by Bombay in the west, by central provinces in the north, and by Madras in the east and south. In population, revenue and importance, it was premier state in the country. It was one of the biggest state in India with the area more than 2 lakh square kilometer. Its annual revenue was around 26 crore. Population of Hyderabad was 16 million with more than 85% Hindus. Only Hyderabad city had majority Muslim population. In spite of Hindu majority, civil services, police and army were close preserves of Muslims. In legislative assembly set up in 1946, Muslims had majority of 10 over Hindus in a house of 132 members. Hyderabad also had its own currency, coinage and paper stamps. On 3rd June 1947, Nizam declared that he will not accede to any dominion and will remain independent after 15th August. He had ambition to secure dominion status for his state on the withdrawal of British and wanted to be a member of British Commonwealth of Nations. But Clause 7 of Indian Independence Bill did not permit the grant of dominion status to any Indian state. He protested against it. On 11 July, he sent delegation to Delhi to visit Lord Mountbatten and raised the question of dominion status. Lord Mountbatten firmly told that British government would not agree to Hyderabad becoming a member of British Commonwealth. Lord Mountbatten then tried to impress the delegation that it would be the mutual advantage of Hyderabad and India if the state acceded to the Indian Union on 3 subjects mentioned in the instrument of accession without any financial commitments. These subjects were defense, external affairs and communications. But Nizam was not ready to sign instrument of accession. The delegation also said that if India pressed the Nizam too hard, he might consider joining Pakistan. Lord Mountbatten put forth the mechanical difficulty presented by the facts of geography. He foresaw the disastrous results to the state in 5 or 10 years if this advice is not taken. In subsequent meetings with Home Ministry, Hyderabad delegation pressed for permission to negotiate a standstill agreement without executing an instrument of accession. But Government of India was not ready to sign standstill agreement with any state which did not accede. On 8th August, Nizam wrote to Lord Mountbatten that he could not think of bringing Hyderabad into organic union with either Pakistan or India. He was prepared, however, to enter into a treaty with India on certain conditions. One more factor was playing a key role in the entire episode of Hyderabad's integration: Ittihad ul Muslimin. It was the communal organization of Muslims founded in 1927 by Nawab Muhammad Nawaz Khan Kiledar on the advice of Nizam. In 1944, Qasim Razvi was elected as the leader of this organization. He organized a shock brigade called Razakars, which means volunteers. Military demonstrations were part of their routine. Organization was also aimed at creating theocratic and totalitarian state with Muslim dominion. Razakars were doing all kind of atrocities across Hyderabad as well as its neighboring states. We will see the extent of these atrocities later in this video. Today, the same organization exists as All India Majlis-e-Ittihad ul Muslimin, which translates as All India Council of Union of Muslims. It has received recognition of state party in Telangana state. This indicates India's success in bringing all political forces into mainstream democracy. Let us now come back to what negotiations went on between India and Hyderabad. Lord Mountbatten suggested referendum in Hyderabad, but Nizam rejected the idea, saying, "The problem and constitutional position of Hyderabad are such that the question of referendum does not arise." Nizam also claimed that the accession of Hyderabad to India would lead to bloodshed and communal trouble. On 17th August 1947, the Nawab of Chhatri, who was leading the Hyderabad delegation and was also the president of Nizam's executive council, wrote to Lord Mountbatten expressing his wish to resume the negotiations. Lord Mountbatten agreed to it and negotiations started. Prolonged discussions came to end on 22nd October 1947. Drafts were prepared by the consensus of both Hyderabad delegation and India. The Hyderabad delegation took the drafts to obtain the Nizam's approval, promising to be back by the 26th November. Immediately on arrival in Hyderabad, the delegation submitted the documents to Nizam, who decided to refer the matter to his executive council for the advice. The council discussed on 3 consecutive days, 23rd, 24th and 25th October. Eventually, it was decided by 6 votes to 3 that the council should advise the Nizam to accept the agreement. On 25th evening, delegation reported their advice to Nizam, which he approved, but postponed signing to 26th. When on the evening of 26th, the delegation went to him for his signature, he once again postponed signing until the next morning, which was the date on which the delegation was to leave for Delhi. A melodrama was now enacted in Hyderabad by Ittihad ul Muslimin. At about 3 o'clock on the morning of 27th October, a crowd estimated at about 25 to 30,000 surrounded the houses of delegates. Loudspeakers entreated the crowd to remain orderly and to create no disturbance beyond preventing the delegation from leaving for Delhi. No Hyderabad police was present. Nizam asked delegates not to leave for Delhi till 30 or 31st October. On 28th October, Nizam called Qasim Razvi to the meeting of delegates. Razvi spoke of the agreement as leading to the extinction of Hyderabad and pleaded for a chance to reopen negotiations with the government of India by a fresh delegation. He asserted that he could get the government of India to accept the original agreement which had been rejected by them. When pressed to state the reasons which led him to believe that he could succeed where delegation had failed, Qasim Razvi said, "As the hands of Indian Union are fully occupied with their troubles elsewhere, they will be in no position to do anything to us or to refuse our demands if we insist." This was due to the fact that tribal invasion of Kashmir began on 23rd October and Indian troops flew there on 26th October. Meanwhile, Nizam had sent delegates to Pakistan without any reference to India. Those delegates returned on 29th October. On 31st October, Nizam sent a letter to Lord Mountbatten, which was in the nature of threat. The Nizam wrote to say that if the negotiations with the government of India were to break down, he would immediately negotiate and conclude an agreement with Pakistan. Nizam set up new delegation of 3 members, having 2 Muslims and 1 Hindu. Both Muslim delegates had voted against standstill agreement. New delegation started negotiations with India. They wanted that Nizam should suspend his sovereignty over 3 subjects only for 1 year. Laik Ali was prominent businessman of Hyderabad and had been a representative of Pakistan in United Nations. Hyderabad government virtually came under the control of Razvi. It was about this time that Qasim Razvi visited Delhi. Razvi no doubt felt that he was now the arbiter of Hyderabad's destinies. He said in a threatening tone that if government of India insisted on plebiscite, the final arbiter could only be the sword. Hyderabad delegation had their final meeting on 25th November, where they fought step by step for verbal alterations and even punctuation marks. The delegation returned to Hyderabad without any material change in the standstill agreement or the collateral letter. The 2 documents were signed by the Nizam on 29th November 1947. Standstill agreement essentially means that both the parties will hold their positions as they are at present. The standstill agreement contained only 5 articles, and Article 5 stated that the agreement would come into force immediately and would remain in force for a period of 1 year. India thought that she had bought peace at least for 1 year, but India soon realized how wrong her perception was. Soon after the agreement, Nizam started violating it. Even before the ink was dry on the standstill agreement, the Nizam's government issued 2 ordinances in quick succession. First one imposed restrictions on export of all precious metals from Hyderabad to India. The second declared Indian currency to be not legal tender in the state. When asked by government of India, Hyderabad gave evasive reply. They said that it had been promulgated with a view to popularize Hyderabad's own currency. On top of this, the government of India received information that government of Hyderabad had advanced a loan of Rs 20 crore to Pakistan. In fact, this loan was negotiated while actually conducting negotiations with government of India. This loan was in the form of government of India's securities of equivalent value. But this was not all. The government of Hyderabad informed India officially that it was their intention to appoint agents in several foreign countries. They had already appointed a public relations officer in Karachi without any reference to government of India. Nizam also started arresting Congress leaders in Hyderabad. At the same time, he provided an open field for Razakars. They were doing all kinds of disquieting activities. About this time, the government of Madras asked for the military assistance in border areas to ward off the incursions of the Razakars and Hyderabad troops into Indian territory. To get an idea of violence going on in Hyderabad, let us see atrocities by Razakars. On the evening of 22nd May, the mail train from Madras to Bombay was attacked at Gangapur station inside the Hyderabad state. The attack was made by a large party of men armed with daggers, hockey sticks, and lathis. It was clearly premeditated attack. The train was attacked from both sides, and casualties were reported to be 2 killed, 11 seriously injured, and 13 missing. Among the missing were at least 4 women and 2 children. Though a Hyderabad police officer armed with a gun was present on the platform, he did nothing to prevent the attack. While the mob attacked the train, armed Razakars stood by on the platform. Razakars were frequently raiding across the borders. Thousands of Hindus had already fled out of Hyderabad. Razakars had gone into Bijapur and Sholapur villages in Bombay province, killed a number of inhabitants and looted property. In their atrocities, they didn't even spare missionaries and nuns. Razakars even joined hands with communists. In border areas, the people went to the extent of saying that the Razakars ruled by day while the communists ruled by night. To add fuel to the fire, Razvi was making hate speeches openly in Hyderabad. He urged the Muslims of Hyderabad not to sheath their swords until their objective of Islamic supremacy has been achieved. In one of his speeches, he alleged that the government of India were supplying arms and materials illicitly to the Hindus of Hyderabad. In another, he declared that the Razakars were the liberators of Muslims of India. He declared that the 45 million Muslims in the Indian Union would be our fifth columnist in any showdown. He asserted, the day is not far off when the waves of Bay of Bengal will be washing the feet of our sovereign. He went so far as to declare that he would plant the Asaf Jah flag on the Red Fort in Delhi. It was clear that India-Hyderabad knot won't hold for long. Nizam was just buying time in protracted negotiations. He was increasing his military strength in meantime. Even after multiple warnings from Indian government, Nizam continued his ill activities. Finally, negotiations broke down. On the evening of 17 June 1948, Nehru held a press conference. While setting out that India would not undertake any further protracted negotiations with Hyderabad and that the draft agreement was the utmost limit to which the government of India could go, Nehru said, we will pursue an open door policy so far as these proposals are concerned, and the Nizam is welcome to accept them anytime he chooses. Atrocities in Hyderabad were increasing day by day. J.V. Joshi, a member of Nizam's executive council, resigned, pointing out that law and order situation had completely broken. Police had joined the Razakars in looting, arson, murder, and even rape. Pakistan began to cash portion of rupees 20 crore of Government of India securities. Government of India had to issue an ordinance to stop this. Export of gold, silver, jewellery and Indian currency to Hyderabad was also prohibited. Hyderabad was using all their resources to purchase arms, ammunition from abroad. There were 2 lakh Razakars with small arms, 42,000 regular and irregular state forces, unascertain number of imported Pathans. There was also a propaganda to bomb cities like Bombay, Madras, Calcutta, and even Delhi. Nizam also wrote to the President of United States to arbitrate, but United States declined to do so. On 20th August, it was informed that Hyderabad delegation was going to present their case in United Nations. By the end of August, the law and order situation inside the state and its environs had become quite intolerable. Finally, Government of India decided on 9 September 1948 to send Indian troops into Hyderabad to restore peace and tranquility in the early hours of Monday the 13th. Even at this point, efforts were made to postpone the date to 15th. Within 5 days, Indian forces planned the operation codenamed Operation Polo. The Indian forces were commanded by Major General J. N. Chaudhary under the direction of Lieutenant General Maharaj Sri Rajendra Singh Ji. On 13 September, Indian Army started its two-pronged advance. The main force was moving along the Sholapur-Hyderabad road, a distance of 186 miles, and a smaller diversion moving along the Bezwada-Hyderabad road, a distance of 160 miles. There was stiff resistance on first 2 days. After this, resistance petered out and virtually collapsed. On Indian side, the total casualties were slight, but on the other side, owing to the scrappy operations and lack of discipline, the irregulars and Razakars suffered a comparatively more casualties. The number of dead was little over 800, out of which only 42 were from Indian Army. It is unfortunate that so many should have died in this action, though their number is insignificant when weighed against the killings, rape, and loot inflicted by Razakars on the Hindus of the state. On the evening of 17 September, the Hyderabad army surrendered. On the 18th, the Indian troops under Major General Chaudhary entered Hyderabad city. The operation had lasted barely 108 hours. It might well be that the operation would have lasted much longer. On the very first day, the advancing Indian troops captured Lieutenant T. Timur, an ex-British Army commando and special service officer who had been employed by Hyderabad Army since August 1947 and who was driving in loaded jeep in the direction of Naldurga. It was discovered that his jeep was full of explosives, while his personal papers showed that he had been given the responsibility for arranging demolitions. He had been sent at top speed by the Hyderabad Army headquarters to demolish the Naldurga and other bridges. He had been told that the Indian Army advance would take place on 15 September. If the Indian Army had marched in on the 15th and not the 13th, they would have found all important bridges blown up. Nature would have added to their difficulties. With the rain setting in, the heavy army vehicles would have been bogged. But thankfully, India didn't postpone the date of attack and operation was completed smoothly. On 17 September, Laik Ali and his cabinet tendered their resignations. The Nizam sent for K. M. Munshi, who had been under the house arrest ever since the police section began, and informed him that he had given orders for his army to surrender and Indian troops were free to go to Secunderabad. Major General Chaudhary took charge as a military governor on 18 September. The members of Laik Ali ministry were placed under house arrest. Leading Razakars were apprehended. It was reported that Qasim Razvi was at his brother-in-law's house, which was at some distance from Hyderabad city. Razvi was arrested on 19th September. On 23rd September, the Nizam sent a cable to the Security Council withdrawing the Hyderabad case. Certain foreign powers continued to press for the discussion of the case, but ultimately it was dropped. There was universal jubilation at the swift and successful ending of the Hyderabad episode, and the messages of congratulations poured in to the government of India from all parts of the country. Next task for India was to root out the communists who were still involved in their hit-and-run raids. The military government concentrated all his efforts on this task. The terrain also, with its outlying forests and lack of communications, was ideally suited for the guerrilla warfare. The communists exploited this to great advantage. They had threatened villagers so much that villagers were not ready to speak even a word against communists. The first task was to banish all fear of the communists from the mind of the masses by demonstrating to them that the government of India were strong enough to protect them. The marrying of Communist Party together with the disposition of army and the special police gradually revived the confidence of the rural population. Vigorous steps were taken to put an end to the terrorizing of the masses by the communists. All available resources were thrown into this all-out drive. Armed police were borrowed from Madras, the central provinces, and Bombay. India was able to bring the menace under control only after 3 years of ceaseless efforts. After integrating Hyderabad, it was important to integrate all Jagirs, as Jagirdar were de facto rulers of their Jagirs. All Jagirs were amalgamated by the end of March 1950. On investigation, Indian government found that Nizam had spent about Rs 22 crore on armament and propaganda. The whole finances of the state were in a thoroughly disorganized state. Nizam was asked that all his resources should be placed at the disposal of new government so that the damage could be repaired. Despite of all the misdeeds of Nizam, it was decided to keep Nizam as the constitutional head of state. On 23rd November 1949, he issued a Farman accepting the constitution framed by the Constituent Assembly as the Constitution of Hyderabad. Nizam was also granted a privy purse of Rs 25 lakhs. Administration of Hyderabad was kept virtually under the control of Government of India. Let us see what all India achieved by integrating Hyderabad. Military operation went very smooth and India was appreciated for it. Quick and swift operation minimized the number of casualties. India succeeded in bringing Razakars activities to halt immediately after the operation. Tens of thousands of Hindus had returned to the state from neighboring provinces who had fled from the Razakar terror. It was feared that communal riots may begin in Hyderabad and may spread into neighboring states. But India was successful in restoring communal peace, which was disturbed before the operation. India successfully restored confidence in Muslims. Indian government showed leniency to the Razakars as there were many innocent people who had got mixed up with them. Military governor was fully aware of the position and he was instructed to protect all legitimate interests of the minorities. Within 1 year, India integrated all Jagirs in Hyderabad. Communist Party was banned in Hyderabad till their Minas was brought under control. However, on the eve of general elections, the government of India removed the ban and permitted the communists to participate in the elections. Thus, communists were brought into mainstream politics of India. This episode would not be complete without a reference to the criticism which was leveled against the India for police action in Hyderabad. Most of the British newspapers roundly condemned India. Questions were asked in the British House of Commons. The British Foreign Secretary Ernest Bevin went to the extent of accusing India of developing a warlike mentality. However, none of these critics could in fact have been aware of the extent to which the government of India had gone to bring about a peaceful settlement with Hyderabad. It is axiomatic that no nation can afford to be generous at the cost of its integrity, and India has no reason to be afraid of her own shadow. In our next part, we will see what all was achieved by integration of Indian states. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and comment because discussion is solution. For more discussions, please subscribe our channel.